So yes, welcome everyone, and thank you for joining in on this special event. For those who don't know, May is Asian American Pacific Islander or AAPI month, as well as Mental Health Awareness Month. So I'm really excited to have a showcase of all these entrepreneurs and businesses within the AAPI community and who offer their own unique tools, modalities that can help us come back and get in touch with our divine selves, and with that, turn into healing. We'll also be learning about how the heritage and backgrounds are incorporated in their work and the impact that they do today. So time permitting, we'll be taking questions from the audience. There's on Zoom and also right now on Facebook Live as well. So my name is Trang Pham Nguyen. I am co-founder of the Happy Healing Shop. We are a spiritual and lifestyle company helping people on their spiritual journey through community events just like this. And also we have free resources, including our blog and our library of videos on our website. And if you'd like to learn more about how to start your own spiritual business, you can visit thehappyhealingshop.com. So, okay, we have a really jam-packed event tonight. So let's get started. So our first guest is an astrologer, and she also created her own jewelry line. I have a hard time saying jewelry, yeah, Mystic Rebel. And her dreams of becoming a jewelry designer blossomed into fruition during her Saturn return. So when she started to follow her own truth, that is when she realized things start to align for her. Her goal is to empower, heal, and bring out the inner goddess in all women. So please help me give a warm welcome to our first guest, Esther Lee. Hello, welcome.
Hi.
Hi. So Esther, did you get into astrology first, or did you get into your jewelry line? What came first? And can you just give us like a brief introduction of your journey and how you got into all this?
Yeah, so I've always been very in touch with the spirit realm, I guess you could say. I've experienced all kinds of paranormal things ever since my first memory was paranormal. So I've always been I've always been connected to that. And I started studying astrology 10 years ago. It was kind of an accident on how it happened, but I was like at a really low point in my life. I was like I was like bedridden with depression. I was like on the verge of ending it, and I was like I was going through deep addictions, and I was like at a very low point in my life. So being bedridden and not really doing anything, like most people are on their phone scrolling. And then astrology like gave me astrology was my saving grace. It saved my life because it provided me so many answers, and it gave me stability. It gave me something solid because it was giving me the answers. And then I became obsessed with it, and I just dove in. I've been obsessively studying it ever since. And then I've always been obsessed with jewelry since I was a little girl. Like if you see pictures of me as a toddler, you'll see me wearing rings on every finger and like bracelets stacked up to here and wearing like a million necklaces. So I've been really obsessed with jewelry. And I'm a Taurus, so Taurus is like things. And if crystals were a zodiac sign, it would be Taurus. So I've been really obsessed with like gems and crystals. And then
Like home goods.
Goods. That's a good one. Yeah. And then I became really and then I found out about like the healing properties of crystals around the same time I found astrology. It all kind of happened at the same time. So that blew my mind because I already loved gemstones, but like to find out they had like properties, I became even more obsessed. And so then a couple years later during my Saturn return, I don't know if you guys don't know what Saturn return is. It's a astrological transit. It's really, it's like one of the most important like times of your life. It starts when you're 28 and ends around 30, but the decisions and choices that you make during that time are the most important decisions that you'll ever make. Pretty much it sets you up for the next 30 years. So yeah, during those times, a lot of people question themselves, like, what am I doing with my life? What am I going to build in this world? Like, it's all about adulting. So So yeah, during that time, how long ago was this? This was 4 years ago. So 4 years ago, I was like, what am I doing with my life? Because up until then, I was fucking off my life the whole time. I was bartending for like 8 years, and like I had nothing going on for me. So then I just had this epiphany. I was like, well, I love jewelry, and I'm very crafty, and I love, healing crystals. So I put two and two together, and then that's when Mystic Rebel became born.
That's amazing. And I just want to screen share with you guys so you can kind of see a little her style. It's just like just really beautiful jewelry. That's her Mystic Rebel Shop is her website. So just let you guys know. She's also obviously wearing it as well, but I just that was so beautiful. So there you go. Yes. And as a person in the AAPI community, sometimes we don't see a lot of representation. So in astrology, do you feel how do you feel about being a person to represent, or do you not feel anything at all with, being of Asian descent?
I think it's cool. I actually think I have more. I don't know if this is weird, but I feel like I have kind of like an advantage. Does that make
Yep.
sense?
Yeah.
I don't know, because I am like different, there's not a lot of me, a lot of Asian American
Yeah.
astrologers, so I don't
Kind of
know.
like you can be a niche.
Exactly. So I think it's cool. Yeah.
And with astrology, can you kind of tell us what we can be expecting? Kind of like what's the theme or maybe the energy that's coming in the season coming up, or maybe this year?
Yeah. So, oh, thank you, Maria. So, coming up, so right now we're having Mercury, we're in the shadow period of Mercury retrograde, Mercury in Gemini, Mercury retrograde Gemini, I think it's on the 29th. Um, so so Mercury retrogrades are like, it's all this like doom and gloom around it, but it's really about review. Yes, like it's the whole like miscommunication and like your technology messing up and all that stuff. Yes, those are valid, but the deeper meaning behind it is review. So if you have some like loose ends that need to be tied up, like you need to, like, say if it's a friend or an ex or a family member, like whatever, it usually, that's why retrogrades are so classically known to bring back exes and old people in your life, because it's to close that karmic loop. So we have that coming up. Jupiter just entered Pisces recently, so that's a really, really big deal, actually. So it's going to be in Pisces up until July 28th, and then it's going to go retrograde back in Aquarius, and then it's going to be back in Pisces December 29th. Now, the reason why Jupiter in Pisces is like amazing, because Jupiter is in its home in Pisces, so it's very comfortable. And Jupiter is expansiveness. It enlarges, it blows out of proportion any energy that it's in. And then Pisces is, well, the higher vibration of Pisces is compassion, it's spirituality, it's unconditional love, it's creativity, inspiration. So if you want to work consciously with this energy, it's good to look at your chart and see where Pisces is, like what house it starts at. And then you could kind of get an idea of where you're going to get opportunities with this transit. So for example, I'm a Virgo rising. Jupiter is transiting my seventh house of partnerships, and I'm actually getting married next month. So,
Oh, congratulations. How exciting.
Yeah.
And for people that want to learn more about obviously their transits or like their houses and whatnot, what services do you offer? Or I like noticed that you have readings, but for different themes. Could you explain more of that?
Yeah, so I do so like I do deep dive readings, and it's like a deep dive astrology, and I also incorporate human design in there as well. And then I do like career life path readings. And so I kind of guide you on what career path to take, and also like a plan to like move forward. I also do love readings, like with two people's charts, like
Compatibility.
compatibility. And I just started, because my main platform right now is TikTok. So I just started this $33 TikTok reading where it's just like 1 minute video, but those have been like doing really well. So it's kind of like a taste. And if they like it, then they could use that $33 towards any full reading in the future.
Perfect.
Yeah.
And what are some myths or misconceptions that you always hear people talk about when it comes to astrology? You know, or like their signs and things like that? Because I'm sure astrology isn't just like, I'm a Taurus, and so these are my traits, and every Taurus is that trait.
Yes, most definitely. So saying that like I'm a Taurus, I'm a Virgo is basically saying like I live in LA, you know? It's barely anything. Like everybody is their whole chart, literally their whole chart. So, and every planet represents like Sun, Moon, Mercury, Venus, Saturn, Uranus represents a different part of your psyche. And then when it comes to houses, when you see the wheel, the houses are different areas of life. So, and then like sometimes planets communicate with each other, you know, which is called like an opposition or trine or conjunction, and that flavors your personality and your life path, and it's very complex. But yeah.
Yeah, humans aren't as black and white as we think. I guess we are sometimes. And so when you get into there's like you said, like houses and like planets, and then also different signs in each house. So it really does, like one Taurus is not the same as your other Taurus neighbor and whatnot. Um, do you have any future special projects, events, or maybe courses you're thinking, or like anything going on that you might think about releasing in the future, if
um,
any, or any
yeah.
ideas that you might have?
Yes, before I answer that, can I say one
Yeah,
more thing? Okay, so one
totally.
one more misconception that's very harmful is that people feel like a lot of people believe they're doomed to their charts. Like they'll see all these like red lines, which are challenging aspects, or they'll see like a lot of houses in the eighth house or 12th house, and they'll feel like, oh, I have such a bad chart, you know, I have bad karma and all that stuff. But that's not true either. There's no such thing as a bad chart. The chart comes alive through the consciousness of the individual, and charts could always be worked with creatively. And this is exactly what I did that saved my life. Because if you knew me before and how I am now, it's like a miracle how much I transformed. So astrology is the greatest self-development tool. It's not just, it doesn't just tell you who you are. It tells you how to work with your chart to have the most fulfilling life possible. Yeah.
That's amazing. So would you say that because you start to understand your chart more, you knew what areas to, I guess in a way, people can know what to work on, or like kind of like if there's a difficult phase in their life coming up, that they know how to kind of prepare for it?
Both, yeah.
Okay.
Because every single signature in the chart has a high expression and a low expression, and then it becomes alive through the high expression becomes alive through the consciousness of the individual. So you could literally, it's like literally like magic. Like you could literally work with your chart to like change your life. It's so amazing. And with transits too, you could prepare for transits. Like for example, the sixth house represents health. So I'm having Saturn transiting my sixth house soon, which means like I need to like take care of my health right now or I'm screwed, you know? So
Right.
so yeah, it's really amazing. So yeah, and also with my offerings, I recently just I'm offering a Jupiter and manifest with Jupiter and Pisces transit. That transit I told you about with Jupiter Pisces, and it's really good for manifestation. So for $44, I'll according to your chart, I give you a personalized written report on how to work with this energy according to your chart.
That's awesome. Amazing. It's so interesting hearing about astrology and how it kind of can like, I guess in a way, how much would you say? Obviously, in the charts, you can kind of fast forward with like that's cool software that you guys have about what the future kind of like looks like. But how much would you say is also like free will? For example, you're giving example of your health issues. So it's like taking care of your health. And so let's say your chart says, okay, watch out, morning. This is like a time where your health is kind of like a little bit sensitive. So how much of it is where you're like, okay, this is going to be such a bad time. I'm going to go through such a bad phase, or versus like, oh, you know what? Is it like a 50-50 chance? Like how much does free will play into it?
That's so when it comes to so when, for example, like the Saturn transiting my sixth house. So it is my free will, because Saturn is traditionally known to be a very doom and gloom planet and bringing all these hardships. But really, Saturn wants to see discipline, wants to see commitment and hard work. So I feel like it's free will is used in the way that I could work with Saturn in that way. Whereas if I kind of just like was unconscious about it, then those challenges would arise, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
When it comes to free will, there are some things in the chart that are karmic, which are not free will. Actually, it's confused. Okay, I know this is going to kind of sound confusing, but there are some things in the chart that you can't control as like karma when it comes to like the parents that you choose, the city that you're born and those kind of things, and what time you're born, and the chart that you have, like that isn't, but it is kind of free will because your soul did choose it. Your soul did choose to have this chart, and it did choose to have your parents. So it's like it's free will, but you're not aware of it, I guess. Yeah.
Do you have any projects or any new things that you're looking forward to doing in the future?
Yeah, I am working on some digital downloads, like courses and stuff like that. One is to help with Saturn return, because Saturn returns could be very hard. So it's kind of like a Saturn return, like first aid kit.
That sounds great. It sounds like a Saturn return for a lot of people is like that pivoting turning point in their life when they realize like something, they're like, this needs to change. Like, I can't live like this anymore.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Let me just check in. Hi, Gigi. We are talking, what are we talking about? Oh, we're talking about Saturn returns, or in general, just astrology, kind of like a brief overview. And let me just check Facebook Live to see if anyone has any questions, just in case. Okay, and then finally, where can people find you?
You could find me on Instagram or TikTok, Mystic dot, like a period, and then Esther, Esther.
Perfect. I'm just gonna put it right here. And also when I post this on YouTube, I'll be including everyone's links as well. There we go.
I have YouTube too, but I'm barely on there, so I'm not gonna even.
Okay, thank you so much for joining us and for giving us a little kind of like taste on astrology and just showing how intricate it is and how it's not just like one of those like magazines where you open up and you're like, oh, hey, this is my astrology for the day. And it's very generic. So thank you so much, Esther.
Thank you.
Yes, I wish there was like a clapping sound effect. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next guest is an artist and teacher. She specializes in creating one-of-a-kind interactive and transformational experiences through art. She believes that awakening the divine creator within yourself through art will transform you into your true, authentic, and unique self. Please help me welcome Kim Tabay.
Hi, everyone.
Hello.
Thank you so much. And thank you, Esther, for opening it up. Yes. I love it. I'm all in all of it. Yes. All of it. Thank you.
Awesome. Hi. So when I found you online, I was such a fan just because, first of all, I love your background and your work. But as you can see, like sometimes people don't realize art or creativity, you can incorporate it somehow, or it's actually part of a spiritual practice sometimes without us even knowing, or it's like a part of ourselves that we kind of neglect a lot, or like we forget about because we've become adults. So I just want to, could you just explain like your philosophy in art and how you incorporate it?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you again for having this and giving me the opportunity to really embody what my work has become full circle. Becoming an artist in so many different ranges. I know growing up, I always wanted art, and art's not really available in the school system, and especially like in our culture, like, what, you want to be an artist? Like, no way, and so I always felt like there was a calling There was a pull for me. And I had to teach myself very unconventionally. And so what I've learned as far as like not even sticking to just one thing, my first form of inspiration were people. I loved taking portraits and trying to draw portraits, which in its sense is my ultimate inspiration are people, you know, and we're like sitting in this space of spirituality. And it just goes to show like that full evolution of how many different things did I seek within the name of art or inspiration to even see my range to even like that map of multidimensionality that comes with art is it's like kind of the same blueprint, and it comes with spirituality. I've been many different things, and just like Esther, I bartended for 18 years to support my art. I've been in the fashion industry, music industry. I used to throw shows, you know, back in the day and put together events and pass out flyers. And it wasn't like an email list, like legit passed out flyers in front of clubs, which is the art of connection, right? So my journey of becoming an artist in all these different realms taught me that art is in fact a vessel to give back. And when we speak about, you know, all these phases that we go through in our lives, I just went through a big, you know, shadow work in March. It was like very deep. And I've gone through phases, but the last couple months, because I've been wanting to integrate truly the space of art and spirituality, I was really called to dig deep and really see how I'm supposed to remind others that if, you know, God is the true artist, he is truly the creator. And if we embody that fully, then that means we step into our own creativity ourselves, you know, and I'm supposed to awaken the divine creators within all of us and be a part and be an example of it, to show that art is not just a painting on the wall for inspiration. It's also a vessel in which you too can step into your tools, right? It's the place of where a thought, you could add like, you know, love is an action word, and you're able to then create it and then see that proof of what you've created that was nothing and then becomes something. And then if you integrate an intention behind that, it becomes more potent, right? So if I created warrior with this, she closes her eyes and uses her intuition and she follows her heart, and I'm painting that intention, and I go through that process of build and that patience and the hot mess where it looks all gross, but then there's a drive and a pull to continue to go layer by layer, just like life. It then becomes a portal and a space of energetically, that reminds me that, like, look what I can do, and look what I can become, and look what I embody. And then to be able to have that every day as proof, I believe, is the magic of art in full circle.
What I loved when I saw your YouTube video on your homepage was the fact that I was watching it, and the fact that you said you were self-taught, and you just, the way you made art sound not to me, because I'm one of those people that draw stick figures. That's like the extent of my art. And so it just kind of proves that you don't have to go, I mean, you can go to like formal training at school, but it just shows like you can incorporate it in your life without having to go through all that, and just kind of do it even your way, the way you did it. So
absolutely.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And that's a big gift. You know, I was, you know, like I said, I went through so many different forms of expression growing up. Ultimately, having my son was like, you know, God was like, are you going to now go get a real job, or are you going to fully step into this and be that example for your son, that you can step into your passion and create a business through this space? And so, you know, with that big life change, it just taught me so many things about what is possible in this space.
And as an Asian Pacific Islander, would you say being a minority, I guess, helps you or hurts you, or you don't see it that way and you just see yourself as like a vessel, just like anyone else?
You know, I've gone through all of it. You know, I've always felt like the black sheep. I've always felt like I didn't belong. As I was younger, I was a closet artist, and up front, I was an athlete. And I used like my fashion and like, you know, little things to express myself. As a minority and as a woman of color, I know that our representation is needed because there's a lot of identity, right, that we don't have, right? I didn't have growing up. Do I feel like it's important? It's valid. It's 100% valid. If I could help another younger girl who I wish I could see, to show that that's possible, because that's what we do, right? Like in my field, art is that visual language. So yes, it is valid, but I would love to help our community really transmute that energy of like, okay, we're stepping into our awareness. Now let's step into our power to then integrate that more into bigger communities of humanity beyond our scope. But it is valid. We have to have these conversations for sure, especially as a first generation Filipino, right? Like we grew up differently in the household, and then we're just like thrown into these other places, you know, in which we seek and find what speaks to us. As a street artist, I grew up with tagging and graffiti. You could see that in my color use alone. I use color because I didn't feel like I had the confidence of formal training, you know, but now it's coming full circle. And I love that I am proof that you can teach yourself. And in that space of just creating art, not even to become a master, you get to see what your signature is. Because I could teach a room full of 100 people, one butterfly, and they're all uniquely different. So to me, that's like, it's just proof. Same heart, but like different, but we show up different. And that's what God wants from us, right? He wants to be able to live through our authentic, unique journeys. And I think art becomes that visual proof and language of it.
Growing up I think for a couple people or many people in the audience watching, we probably had like really ethnic, traditional parents, you know, that especially with a lot of Asians, always like something that's stable, especially when they're immigrants, you know, get a stable job, get benefits, that's government, doctor, engineer, lawyer.
Nurse,
I think, I think those are like the top 5 right there, right?
Yeah.
So,
yes.
So now knowing what you know, what would you say to anyone watching this right now or in the future who have been brought up by like, you know, parents like that, or even surrounded by people like that, you know, they were told not to pursue the creative arts because it'll be a starving artist, you know, it won't, you can't do that. What would you tell them?
That's hard because you know, I'm finally put that to peace because my parents finally see why. I remember having a conversation with my father one day, and he's like, I don't understand. You're so bright and you're so intelligent. Why do you choose to suffer? And I'm like, right? Why would I willingly do this every day? But it is my calling. And I think that's what we have to discuss within our community is the expectations that come from our families who come from a completely different era. And they were brought up by a different era, right? Of scarcity. So they weren't even given the opportunity to say that they even it was within their divine birthright to be creators. And that's a thing. Like I urge artists everywhere, like right now, the last 20 something years of my journey, this is the time I've been waiting for, to recreate, to pivot, to take the best of what it is that we know, to MacGyver the shit out of that and make it something else. the future needs innovators. And by completely disconnecting even the possibility of being a creator and using your imagination, it disables our future. Because how could they recreate? How could they innovate? Like, that's why I urge parents right now too, like, be that example for your kids to build it hands-on. That's what's missing right now. And I would like that, like, yeah, I'm calling all artists, like, honestly, and that's where this comes, you and I come in. It is because it is a spiritual journey to recognize that our parents' limitations aren't ours, to honor their struggle, but to also see how small they were able to even encompass like their spectrum of their what is possible. You know, when you come to a new country, or you're not within comfort, you're in fight or flight, you're in this race for impact. And unfortunately, our families, we inherit that from our families where they can't see it. And so like I had to just be like, be that bitch. Like, I'm sorry, this is just what I have to do, and I have to do it for my child. I can't fake the friend. I can't be inauthentic for my son. You know, not that my parents were inauthentic, not our families weren't. They just weren't given the freedom or the belief that they could do that. So yeah, I urge, like, this is our time to just innovate and really embody what we are. Like, you look all over the industry, there are so many people within the Asian Pacific Islander community who have built and creative entities who have been stolen. I'm one of them. It's part of the lesson, and it's a part about stepping into like your voice and your empowerment of like, yeah, we have to start to build our own businesses and build from the ground up and co-create. Yeah.
I kind of got teary-eyed when you were saying all that. Not sure why, but it is important. And I think for those who, I think there's a lot of people that struggle being their authentic self, but down the road, it's kind of like you said, a calling. It will still eat away at you if you don't follow it. And people that really choose not to, and they're because of societal or like family pressure, eventually it's just at the end of the road, they realize how unhappy and how it wasn't worth it, you know, not listening, following others versus following what was inside of you, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, during COVID, of course, there's I guess, you know, when people, there's no like really as many outings and whatnot, or like wine and paint night and whatnot, but could you explain like the workshops that you offer and like how people can join in and whatnot?
Yeah. So like COVID, right? It stopped everybody. Which is really interesting because people have asked me, you know, as an entrepreneur, as an artist, who did really depend on those paint and wine and group in-person experiences, you know, like they're like, how did it affect your business? And I was like, to be honest with you, I've been through COVID many chapters of my life where I've just had to dead ass stop and reset, you know? So it's like, this is the opportunity to take what it is and transform. And so what I do is like, so last year I had to pivot, and I met like-minded beautiful spiritual women who I would then co-host with, we would come up with like a theme, like integration or transformation. Like, for example, you know, so would be the theme is the butterfly, which represents transformation and opening up your wings. And we would really integrate that with a meditation. And then we would paint it to then embody the painting in itself. So again, what I try to do is create that multi-dimensional, multi-sensory thing so that the message and the embodiment is really potent. And so I call it integration and transformation through art. And I offer private workshops for, I think it's really important to create spaces and groups. I'm a big fan of having soul sisters. And so what I do is offer my services for private closed groups of women who want to go through a transformation together and we build on the theme and customize it to the group in itself. And it's like a 2 to 3 day workshop where we get to build, set in the intention, and then build the painting from start to finish. And also one-on-one coaching as well, especially for creators who are going through the uncomfortable, you know, the uncomfortable feelings of really becoming a creator. I get that, you know, I'm a single mom, you know, going against the grain. It's like, again, like my spiritual journey just really matched up with my art awareness, as well as what I'm supposed to do here with both.
And FYI, guys, when you do her workshop, she does give you like instruction of like what supplies to get. So you're not like, oh no, I don't have a paint set at home. I can't do this. I don't know. This is so overwhelming. So I just want to let you guys know that they're like, it doesn't have to be. She has it all down.
Yes. So I set you guys all up from start to finish, and I'm offering with my brand new program, especially with closed groups, to send everybody the supplies as well, so that, you know, art is an expensive hobby, you know, and so I just really want to get it to people as quick as possible. And I know what it's like to be at Michael's and like just buy those tubes on tubes and tubes. So I'm really integrating that to my system just so that we could really get into creating that sacred space and not worrying about all the other things that come with it.
Right. Perfect. Where can people find more and learn more about what you do, your artwork? She also has some art pieces for sale as well. So yeah, where can they find you on social media and your website?
My website is kimtabay.com. I'm on Instagram a lot. Just started a TikTok page, still same thing, Kim Tabay. If you're in the LA area, I just put up 2 massive murals in El Monte at Progress Brewery on Main Street. And yeah, I partnered up with an amazing entrepreneur, Infinity Suites, and we're now creating submersive Airbnb spaces, which is like more art, like as a vessel, and it gets to show you all the threads of how you can be immersed with art and take it home and live in it for a little bit. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Kim, for joining and explaining and just talking about everything that is really close to you.
Oh, thank you so much for creating this space.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
I just have to, the energy I was feeling, and
I just got goosebumps. Thank you.
Mother to mother, everything you were saying about parenting that creativity in our children, I was like, ah.
Yes, I have goosebumps. Thank you for listening. And this is all divine timing. It really is. You know, I feel like we're all feeling the calling, and so it's an honor to be amongst other women, people of color, just us in our community doing what we have the honor to do right at this present moment. So thank you for that.
Yeah. What's it called? Dee Dee wrote, those are very powerful pieces hanging. They're beautiful. And Esther wrote, I love your hair.
Oh, thank you. Got to keep this, like the seasons change, right?
Oh, hi, Fiona. I didn't bring tissues, but I'm gonna go grab some now. Yeah, this is conversation I was not expecting to go certain, like, you know, just get the emotions, but it is important, you know, and I will say, like, this is, for those who don't know behind the scenes, I'm gonna give you a little glimpse, but it made me sad part of me was sad putting this webinar together because it was so hard for me to find Asian practitioners, modalities and everything. Like, I try to search TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, hashtags, Google. And so it's just the fact that I was able to even find you guys, these speakers, I was like, I could put something together. But the fact that it was hard for me to find people, then I realized like the whole population probably has a hard time finding people, because you can't just like Google Asian tarot reader, Asian astrologist, you know, it doesn't pop up that way. So yeah. Oh yes, Fiona, actually, she said in the Asian Hustle Network, that's actually where I found most people. I actually looked in a Facebook group of just general Asian entrepreneurs. And that's how I found most of our speakers. And I'm so glad I did. And it was from your thread, Fiona. So I am so glad. That's actually how I found you too. So, but it's just one of those things where it's really important to like, when I just want to tell everyone that whatever minorities or like even different sexuality, genders and whatnot, if you know them, if you like, one of the best things is to share them with everyone, because I think we're just so underrepresented, and I can't say that word right. But so for those who are even here watching or even watching this video in the future, thank you. So our next guest speaker, she is a writer and has an expansive and ongoing relationship with the tarot. As a certified spiritual life coach, she is trained in the art of engaging in safe and empowering dialogue. She doesn't identify herself only as a tarot reader or only as a coach, because her work is rooted in her experience as a woman, a writer, and a mother. So please give a warm welcome to Ananda Milea.
Hello, hello.
Hi.
Hello. It's
Oh.
nice to meet everyone in person and to actually feel the energy behind everyone's social media handles.
Right. Thank you so much for joining. And also I love your background, the twinkle lights. I'm a big fan of twinkle lights.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes. We try to keep it festive here.
Yeah. So when I found you, I found it interesting how, again, like, can you explain more about how your relationship or how you view the tarot, you know, and whatnot?
Yeah. So I am trying to take tarot out of its current context, and I don't think I'm the first person to do this. I definitely have people I look up to that I found through social media. But I want to remove the fortune teller context around the cards, and really bring more of an intellectualized approach to the tarot. I feel like it goes so much deeper than just knowing like what's happening in your future. My work with it, I really like to focus on their past lives, everything they've already experienced, and how that is experienced within their current circumstances. Another element I am trying to bring into my tarot work is more of a somatic approach. Right now, it's currently a top-down approach, so you can think of that being a very cerebral, mental sort of experience. Doing like affirmations, that's a very down approach. But I think a lot of the people here have had some sort of healing journey. And as you know, that's a very deep nervous system experience. So if you're not accessing the body within your healing work, it's not that you're doing something wrong, but you're missing a very important element to it. So that's the bottom up approach. So I'm really trying to figure out a way to integrate how the body can be a part of the tarot dialogue, right? Because it's a lot of talking, but something as simple as a spiritual life coach, you've said I'm trained in dialogue. Part of the dialogue is the unspoken dialogue. So what I look for are certain cues that happen. The way a person makes eye contact with me, if they start fidgeting, it kind of signals to me that, okay, I'm touching on something sensitive. The body's intelligence is picking up on like kind of like a red zone in their and how comfortable they feel. So I think dialogue definitely goes beyond the neck up experience. Our bodies communicate with each other too. When you're in the presence of, say, like a therapist, right? Sometimes the therapist just has to ask how you're doing, and you just break down and cry. And that's not because you're triggered or anything. It's because there's a bodily intelligence inside of all of us. And we pick up when we're in the presence of another settled, safe, and empowered body. And so that it's almost like this subconscious release happens, where it's like we are very much telepathic. We are an interdependent species, and we communicate in all different forms with energy, emotions, facial cues. I mean, any mothers here would understand, like, for the first how many years of your child's life, they're not really communicating in intellectual sentences, but you know what their needs are just based on what they're communicating bodily. So that's kind of what I'm trying to bring with the tarot. I think up until this point in history, tarot has served its purpose. But just like as spiritual work is ongoing, just like the consciousness is constantly evolving, I think we're at a point where the tarot can grow up a little bit. It doesn't have to be such a, I mean, it's magic. It's magic no matter what, but it's allowed to grow up with us as well.
And can you explain how you got into tarot? Was it recent or when you were a kid? Like, for example, if you're a kid, can you explain like your upbringing, if maybe your parents shunned it because if they were more traditional?
Yeah, I grew up Catholic, so very far cry from what the tarot is. I grew up in a private Catholic school. I was told like I had to go to church, the devil is
Same.
real, all of the things. Yeah, and I've done a lot of work to like understand a different version of Christianity and a story that integrates women more into it. But the tarot came really by accident. I started studying the tarot about 5 years ago, and I had just returned home I went to South America to work with plant medicines, and I was very much on a healing journey already. And my company, I was working in marketing and advertising, had postponed our Christmas party until I had returned home. And I was just like, I really don't want to go, but now I feel obligated because everything is shifted around me. And it was very much synchronistic because when I got to the party, they had hired a tarot reader as entertainment. And I was just like, I had just sat in a hut with shamans and had this really amazing once in a lifetime experience. I just don't think there's anything this woman is going to tell me that I haven't already seen. But obviously this experience was profound enough where I realized, wow, like this is kind of the bridge between the mystical and the practical worlds. And so she really picked up on like everything that was happening in my life. And the last card I pulled was the Magician. And she got really excited for me. And I didn't know what that meant, but she was like, you have powers, you need to pursue this, study the tarot, study astrology, just like do something outside of what you already are doing. And I was in that kind of like mid-20s melodramatic crisis point in my life. I am a proud and healthy survivor of sexual assault, but at that time I was in the thick of my PTSD and just really confused about what to even do with myself. And so I wrote everything down she had told me. I took a picture and I took it with me. I actually ended up leaving my corporate job. I packed my bags, spent some time traveling the world, and I returned home and I was broke. I didn't really have a plan for what was next. I was moving back in with my parents when my friends were like moving up the corporate ladder. So there was just a lot of just like, okay, what do I do? And so thinking about her advice, I went to this full moon gathering in Berkeley. I'm from California. And I'm sitting there around the fire and I'm looking at everyone. And I see the tarot reader who told me to pursue this sort of stuff. And I was just like, wow, oh my gosh, wow. She literally told me to do this work. And 7 months later, she's right here. And long story short, I had like a breakdown and I ended up shaving all my hair off. And so I looked completely different. But I approached her anyways. And I was like, okay, I know like I'm bald right now, but like you did a tarot reading for me and you're literally the reason why I'm here tonight. And we ended up becoming friends, and she kind of mentored me as I made this huge transition into my life. I decided to get a nanny job just to like pay the bills, and that gave me space to take a coaching certification class and start studying the cards. And so that's kind of, I really relate to Kim with like, it was a very self-taught experience, and sort of, what Esther shared, it like kind of happened by accident, where it just came at a time where I didn't realize I was asking for something, and that's what came.
Thank you so much for sharing that personal story.
Yeah.
It seems like a lot of us have gone through, I guess, difficult times, difficult phases that feel like forever in our lives.
Yeah.
But usually it sets us on like not a search party. That's not the right word I want to use, but like, searching for something else, something deeper. Sometimes we just, like you said, follow and stumble upon it and say like, oh, I think this resonates with me. Right.
Yeah.
And with your it's so interesting how you do incorporate somatic with tarot. And
Yeah.
do you kind of incorporate that into your spiritual coaching? So can you explain like the services you offer, if you intertwine them, or are they two separate
Mhm.
things?
Yeah, so I do the I've only recently started incorporating the somatic work. I do that in a workshop where I ask people to create like an 8 count dance phrase or choose an asana or any sort of position that you feel like it just feels good or you just feel called to embody right now. When it comes to my sessions, it's a lot of just like picking up on those bodily cues. I'm a highly sensitive individual. When I'm in a session with somebody, I can feel in my body when something is experienced in their body. So without like calling a person out, I'll ask like, are you feeling something in your chest? Are you feeling something in your throat? And sometimes they're like, yes, yes. And I'm like, okay, can we sit with that? Can we move through that experience? And so it's really just being able to hold the space with them as they are letting that energy come up, just as it erupts. And whatever it is, let them have that experience because a lot of us have spent so much time suppressing it, and it's just like I'm like, hey, if you're going to let that come up, let this be the time, let this be considerate, like structured time to like have that release. So in that way is how I do the somatic stuff. I'm more explicit about it in my workshops where I'm like, okay, now I want you to move, do a phrase, whatever feels good, kind of sit with that movement. Now pull a card. How does that movement relate to that card? What memories come up for you? What emotions came up in that movement? And so to me, it's much more about just creating the head and heart connection that a lot of us don't have. I used to work in corporate, so I was a very cerebral person. But I grew up as a competitive figure skater, so I have a very strong somatic like movement background. But you grow up and you think that like that's just a hobby. Those weren't my actual strengths. Like I have to go work in an office, and so um, I've spent like I'm not a somatic, excuse me. I'm a contemporary pole dancer as well, and that's been a recent thing in what I've been doing this last year and a half. And I'm starting to realize that like I don't think I was ever my intelligences didn't lie in an office space. There's absolutely people I know that thrive in the corporate world. I was not one of them. But when I do these sort of movement practices, I'm realizing that like I'm a more tactile kinesthetic learner. And so to me, when you bring the body into a space, I think it helps people to see where their strengths are. Maybe you're not coordinated and that's fine, but the connectivity between mind and body is still important.
I forgot to also say in the beginning of this that for I think all our readers, everything can be done virtually. So in case people are like, oh, I'm not local to Berkeley, I can't do this coaching or even the somatic, it's like you can, there's technology. But yes, everything is virtual and people offer virtual classes. So I just want to let you all know that. And how does it feel being in the space in like, I guess, tarot, metaphysical, or even like with the spiritual coaching, like the wellness industry as an AAPI person?
I think it's wonderful. I think, Kim has said it also, representation is so important. And part of that is because of the body's intelligence. When, I went to school at a predominantly white school, and my experience was that sometimes teachers would literally forget about me, like, the popsicle sticks in a can to pull out a name. I had 3 different teachers that forgot to put my name in a can. And it's because, it's not so much that racism is that intentional. It's just that consciously you look for what is most familiar to you, just like a baby searches for a face that's familiar to it, right? And that's how it feels safe, is that like without proper representation, some of us do feel neglected, even if it wasn't necessarily like out of evil.
It's
It
more
was
on like on a
like
subconscious level.
on a subconscious level. And so I find that without even saying like, I'm a Filipino woman, I tend to attract Southeast Asian clients. And what's great is like I understand the diaspora. I understand the trauma behind that because it's very much my story as well. So there is this natural cultural synergy that happens. But I also have to recognize that, the tarot was invented by the Italians. The French turned it into a divination tool. I've worked with plant medicines from an entirely different culture. And so I have to check myself too. It's not like I get a go free pass because I identify as a woman of color. Is that I have to recognize that the crux of my business is built on someone like another culture's invention. And to me, it's just, giving credit where credit's due, using it in a way that's respectful to other people, other folks, staying in your lane.
That is really important,
Yeah.
because that's where a lot of cultural appropriation happens nowadays without people even knowing about it. And speaking
Yeah.
of cultural appropriation, if you guys know, in the future I'll be hosting webinars I would love to do it with Native Americans and Indigenous people. So please send them my way, if you know any of that sort. So thank you so much, Ananda, for joining us. And where can people find you and more about what you do?
Yeah, so I'm predominantly on Instagram, but I also, my website, you can sign up for my newsletter. I send out about 1 to 2 newsletters a month with a write-up offering. It's like my offering of love for the collective. And I also include, like, subscribers always get discounts to workshops that I'm hosting. I also have a limited income option for my services for the following categories: mothers, healers, artists of all disciplines. Did I forget anyone? No, I think that was it. And the reason for that is because I identify as all those things, and I understand that there's an inequality of energy output, that we work so hard, we literally hustle our butts off, but what we get in return isn't always a fair compensation. So this is my, offering for anyone that has joined this webinar. Like, if you would like to have a session with me, please select the limited income option.
Thank you so much. Just going to include her link down below. That's where you can find Ananda. So yes, thank you so much again.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you again for hosting this and having this space and for finding us. This is wonderful.
Yep. All right. So with our next speaker, she is a human design reader and founder of the company The Wild Pixel. She originally started out by joining a group program to launch her copywriting business, and then did human design readings just for fun for her peers. Then they encouraged her to drop it, copywriting, and pursue human design full-time, and thus the Wild Pixel was born. Without further ado, I'd like to welcome to the Zoom stage, Fiona Wong.
Thank you.
Hi. Yes.
Hi. It was totally a freak accident that I ended up in human design. I had zero intention of getting into this space, so that's exactly how it happened.
Okay. Yes. Okay. I'm so excited because I've seen human design floating online. Like, did you know about your human design and all that kind of stuff? But can you explain what human design is? And is it talk about personality? Is it talk more about like your life path? Is it good for career? Or, if you had to just define it for us, I guess.
All right. So I'm going to give you the version that I give people, just to draw an analogy, and then I'm going to give the more sterile version. So if you imagine like Myers-Briggs back in the 80s checking out astrology, and it's like, oh yeah, she's cute, and then they like ran off and had an affair, and then they had a child, and then raised that child in a secret commune with like I Ching and chakras and all of these other systems. That child is human design. And now that child has grown up, and it's kind of like the hot new thing in the coaching space. So that is kind of like the analogy I normally give everyone. A wild orgy happened, and now we have human design. What is actually human design? In the 1980s, this white dude went like off the coast of Ibiza, and he says that he channeled this voice that combined these 5 systems that we already had 2 of them, which belong to AAPI. And oh my God, I have this incredible thing called human design. And for me, when I read this story, I was just like, just say you dropped acid. Just say you like took shrooms or something. You don't have to make up this incredible story. And whether or not it's made up, you know, nobody was there. That's the thing. Nobody was there with him except for his dog. So none of us can really say what did or did not happen. And of course, when we're talking about the spiritual space, things like claims like this happen. People say that they're prophets. People say all of these things. But at the same time, good stories sell. Like I sometimes talk about, you know, King Arthur, he had Merlin, right? Chinese people, we say that we're the descendants of dragons. Is it true or is it a story? I don't know, but it sells. So that's really where human design came from. And honestly, I was a little bit offended when I read the story because I live with schizoaffective disorder. And as a woman of color, if I said I heard a bunch of voices and then I came up with this incredible system, they'd put me in the hospital. Any person of color, any woman really, we'd be called hysterical. We'd be called insane, crazy. Really, only a white man could have done something like this and got away with it. So that's human design.
Great. And then also, could you tell us more about I guess, like the services that you offer on your website, like human design reading, also by the people you've trained, and also the program and subscription that you have set up as well?
Yeah, so I'm what's called a projector in human design. We're known for being really tired because we don't have natural sustainable energy. So my business actually started out as a blog and an Instagram where I just made memes. I essentially made fun of the human design system, and I like did a bunch of TikToks just joking about it. And for some reason, people just related to it. People reached out to me and they were just like, I've just never seen like a Chinese girl like go off like this. Like what's going on? I'm really into it. Keep doing it. And people started asking me to do readings, and I did it. And it got to a point where I was at full capacity. I think at one time I did like 50 readings in a month, and my assistant was like, "Are you okay? Do you need help?" And I was like, "Yeah, you know what? I do." So what I started doing was this year, I'm not really taking a profit in my business. I'm hiring people from all over the world who do human design readings. And I am essentially handing them over my platform to do these readings. I'm completely separating my identity, my personal brand from my business in hopes that this platform highlights voices that otherwise aren't heard in the spiritual space. So if you go to thewildpixel.com, you can grab a reading. More than likely, one of my readers, my staff members, will do the reading, just because I don't have the energy to do it. I am a single mom. I got 2 kids, and it's really hard to record a reading when like a half naked child just like runs through my camera, and it's just like, "Mom, where's the cheese and crackers?" Like I don't know, man. Like you're gonna have to like dig in it's in the pantry. Everything's in the pantry. The answer will always be it's in the pantry. So yeah, it makes it really difficult to look someone in the face and be like, "Yeah, you're this incredible person with all of these things. Where's the cheese and crackers, Mom?" So I've been outsourcing that.
Oh, or you hear like a scream in the room and you're like, do I get up and leave now, or just still stay on and keep recording? So
is that a scream of joy, or are they hurting each other? Like what's going on over there?
Yeah, sometimes they're shrieks. I do hear them and I'm like, I think they're playing. I think that's just playing, right? I hope that's just playing.
Yeah.
So, well, that's really smart of you to do that, and also just to showcase other people that do this, and maybe like be able to like promote them and give them a chance as well. So thank you for doing that. And I guess it's part of like, this is part of entrepreneurship where sometimes things don't go as you planned, or like, you have to kind of like pivot, right, based on your energy level. So what can you share with us on, I guess, like any difficulties or the highs and lows of what it was like to be an entrepreneur and build the Wild Pixel?
So I built the Wild Pixel right after my ex-husband kicked me out in hopes that, his mistress would move in and left me as a single mom. And I'm in North Carolina. There's no Asians here, like except like to go to college here and they leave. So I had no support system, no family. And it sucked. I was really lucky that the person who's now my partner really believed in me. And I actually made a post about this today, that anyone who has ever seen me succeed or been a part of my success has seen me at my lowest. And the only thing I could have promised them was, I just need you to believe me, because there will be a reward on the other side. I was on food stamps. I applied for a WIC. Like it was so embarrassing, you know, as a Chinese American, like we're such prideful people, for my kid to come home from school with bags of donated clothes because his teacher thought there was a problem. That's kind of where I was when I started the Wild Pixel. And I made a Facebook post. I was like, listen, people want me to do these readings. If you want a reading from me, here's my PayPal link. It's $127. Let's get it. I did $5,000 my first month. And I was just like, oh, like, all right, great. Like, can we do this a second month? All right, this really hurts. I'm like super burnt out. This is a lot of readings I'm doing. I just started paying down some of my debts as well. And I put out an application, and my assistant, she's in South Africa. She's like, I've just been following you for a while and I would love to work for you. And I straight up was just like, I can't pay you that much. And she said, it's okay. I believe in your vision. I believe in you. And after a couple of months, she helped me make more money. I paid her more. Now I probably tripled her pay than when she first spoke to me back in October. So this stuff sucks. One of my current investments is in a therapist on Talkspace. I need it. I need a therapist. I need to take care of myself. And that is one of the hardest things. I've been to that place where I've burnt out. I've checked myself into the hospital twice since I've been here, and I had to prioritize my mental health. But then again, my parents didn't believe in mental health. I didn't know how to have that conversation with myself growing up. My dad literally once told me, when it was suggested I had mental health issues, he said, there's no such thing as mental illness. She's mentally weak. That's the problem. She just needs to study more and get off the computer. And I had to teach myself, like, it's okay to seek therapy. It's okay to ask for medication. It's okay to say, I need help. I cannot do this by myself. And it's also okay to invest money in that. That was the really, really difficult part for me.
Yeah, no, I thank you so much for sharing that, because I feel like this is like the behind the scenes that no one ever shares about. And it's also not just entrepreneurs, it's everyone. Like most people, I like to say almost everyone needs therapy, you know, in some way or form, but they don't realize it because it's, you know, especially in Asian culture, it's seen like, why you don't have a problem. Oh, just push it aside. It's fine, you know, and not just Asian, but I think probably like ethnic and just parents that aren't aware. So even though it's an investment, it's one of those things where like, there's a certain point where if you don't take care of yourself, then everything will just crumble and just disappear, you know, the business you built and everything. So it's like people invest in business mentors, business coaches, or you know, like fitness coaches, but why can't we invest in like a brain coach, a brain mentor, you know? So in this case, I call that a therapist. So I'm really glad you share that, because people see like the wins on social media and stuff, because that's what we post, right? Like the good stuff for like the wins for a business, but they don't realize the hardships that comes with it, the tears, like the crying and all that kind of stuff, and being like, will this shoot off and be okay? And then again, like for you being like, I have to find like, I'm so glad, is it Simone? Is that how you say her name?
Simone,
Simone, she's lovely when I interacted with her. So but just someone coming across and being like, I believe in you and I'm willing to take the pay. And then, you know, because they see that you're going to grow, and then you're able to, you know, as you've compensated with her. So I'm so glad you shared that story, and how difficult just in general life can be, and how it's just like, sometimes you need to have that support, whether it's like food stamps and whatnot, but it's a very real story, and it's a very real, like what a lot of people deal with, but that's not what we post about, you know.
I actually post about that stuff all the time. I think that's why people believe in me. I will share stories about my parents sucked growing up. I'll talk about it. I am a single mom. I do have mental health issues. And even though I'm very financially comfortable now, I'm depressed as hell sometimes. And I get really sick, and I will post about it on Facebook. I will go radio silent on Instagram and just let people know, like, I'm just doing me right now. I can't. And my hope is that I'm just hoping that there is, you know, an Asian American woman out there right now who's starting her business, and maybe she's beating herself up a little bit, and she accidentally finds my post somehow, and she can see like, dude, it's okay. Like, I've been there. A lot of us has been there, but I just want you to see it in writing that we've all been there. We have the second highest suicide rates. Asian American women in their 20s. We had the second highest, and I don't want to lose more of us. Other people are already hurting us. I don't want us to keep hurting ourselves.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing all that, because it is, you know, you kind of believe what you see. So when people see like that, it's, oh, there's someone else suffering. It's really important for them to be like, okay, this is normal. This person's getting help. Maybe I should look into getting help too. And because I see that they're going through it and overcoming it and whatnot. So thank you for sharing that. And like you said, like our suicide rate is pretty high. And sometimes we're society, or even the way you're brought up, we were told to suppress problems and just kind of push through it, which makes it worse. So, and then also I remember on your website, you have a subscription program. And is that kind of like people get kind of like group live chats one-on-one with you, or more like with the staff you hired, or what does your subscription program entail?
We're actually revamping the back end of it right now, since we crossed 100 something members in the membership. But normally you get office hours with me, but there's just so many people in there now. I'm actually breaking everyone up into smaller groups with my staff, and to also alleviate the pressure from my staff, I will likely either sit in on some of these office hours, or staff members will like collaborate on some of them. We also have a Discord server. That's my favorite because it's asynchronous. People just hop in there and like ask questions about human design, and I get to geek out with them. That's my favorite thing to do. I like to just, and it's all conversational. It's not like I'm always teaching or always telling people. It's very much an exploration of a little back and forth Q&A until they get to a place of, okay, I think I understand how to move forward.
Awesome. And where can people find more about your postings, your website, and what you and your staff do?
So I'm at a place where I've decided I'm actually going to put most of my content behind a paywall, because I found a lot of people who are not AAPI, no surprise, are stealing my things, from my memes to some of my content. And then people have started replying to my content on like YouTube and stuff like that, but in like a very aggressive way. So I decided that we're actually moving to a domain called theguidedvoyage.com. The wildpixel.com will still work. There you'll find information about human design. My blog posts are there. One of my most popular blog posts was, "Is human design cultural appropriation?" Went viral, lots of backlash. So most of my writing do sound very personal. I'm trying to kind of clean them up so that they're a little bit more oriented to my business rather than just my personal blog. So that's where you'll find most of my stuff. And if anyone wants to get a reading from me directly, my team knows I'm always here for my AAPI. So just let them know, like, hey, Fiona said that, I could get a reading with her. Where's the link? And they'll pull that super secret link and give it to you guys. I'm really, at this point, protective of my content, my energy. It is difficult to find me online, but I also very naturally got to that place where we need to stop putting all this stuff out for free. Like, we need to start monetizing and protecting it, especially outside of our community when people are not very kind about it.
And did you say it was theguidedvoyage.com?
Yep.
Okay, perfect.
That link's not up yet, but it's going to be swapped over within a couple of weeks.
Okay, perfect. So when people click on the Wild Pixel, will it direct them to the Guided
it'll
Voyage?
Just redirect.
Okay, awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing like human design, what it is, and also like your honest story about what it's like growing up as an API member and as a female entrepreneur. So thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay, so for our next speaker, she's the founder and owner of Yoga Bliss Studio in LA. She loves teaching dynamic vinyasa classes as well as restorative classes. And she emphasizes presence, mindfulness, and connection to spirit, and encourages everyone to seek fulfillment and joy in their yoga practice, as well as in every aspect of their lives. So please give a warm welcome to Lara Estrada.
Hi, everyone.
Hello.
Thanks for having me. It's nice to meet you in person.
Okay. Oh, Fiona writes, if someone needs in a different language. I have plenty of referrals outside my own business. Awesome. Perfect for anyone that wants human design in different languages. Perfect. Welcome. And I am so excited to talk to you because it's just also hearing from someone that also owns like a brick and mortar business, right? Like a physical location. But first, can you tell us about how you got into yoga? Was it something you wanted to do as a kid? Did your parents say, no, don't do it? Or is it something you kind of stumbled upon on a trip maybe?
Yeah, I got into yoga. Actually, I tried my first yoga class when I was in college. I was actually taking, um, I think it was Ananda that was in the Bay Area, and she went to New Moon Circle in Berkeley. But I went to college at Berkeley, and I actually took this like 1 unit class, and it was called Meditation, Mysticism, in the Mind. And we would do explorations of different meditations and different things like that. And I wandered into my first yoga class there, but that's not really where it stuck. But I do remember taking that yoga class and being very physically challenged and very sweaty afterwards. And it was like a great workout. I grew up active though. I did play sports. I played softball from like the age of 8 to 18, and I took dance from like the age of 5 until high school, until before high school. And then when I started working in an office, you know, like that, so I do have experience in the corporate world. And then it's like there's no longer these like activities after school or like sports or that kind of thing that you do anymore. And one day one of my friends invited me to go with her to a yoga class. And when I was taking that class, it just felt so good to be back in my body and to use it in a physical way. And it actually reminded me a lot about how it felt like to dance, like when we were doing things on the floor and like stretching and everything. And so I just kept going back to that yoga studio. And then I eventually ended up quitting my corporate job because it was just like I've heard other people say, it just like wasn't for me to sit in a cubicle all day. And I was like, there has to be more to life. Like this is not it for me. And I didn't quite know what I was going to do at that point, but I had made a point before that to save up a lot of my money. And at that time, I was living at home after college. So I didn't have too many expenses, and I wanted to feel that I could be secure for if I wasn't going to work for a while. And I ended up going backpacking with one of my best friends, and we were gone for about half a year. And before that trip, I decided to do my yoga teacher training. And it was more with the interest of learning more about the yoga practice and getting more information about the philosophy and that kind of thing than me even aspiring to be a teacher or an instructor at all. It was just more the curiosity of wanting to learn more. And then through that experience, I realized, oh, I actually do enjoy teaching. I do want to share this with other people. And then from there, it was like a journey of like finding myself as a teacher and like finding opportunities to share, and like also just practicing and getting comfortable leading and hearing my own voice and the way that I could share things in an efficient way. And that could also be like a soulful way to touch people. And then the more that, and then I was kind of in this place of like working, and then I would always be like teaching before or after work or on the weekends or and that kind of thing. And it was still kind of separation between my corporate life and the yoga life. And then the more and more that I did it, the more that I saw that like I could have my own business if I wanted to. And then that became my new goal, and I kind of went from there. So yeah, that's how I got into yoga. And it just kind of unfolded into the path of having my own business after a while. Yeah.
And can you explain to us like the ups and downs, especially of, for example, like maybe starting out, like how difficult it might have been, or maybe it was easy to get secure like an actual physical place to, or just going through the legal paperwork and all that to have a physical yoga studio?
Yeah, I mean, that was a journey in itself as well. I actually, I worked with a realtor, and I called about a different space, which ended up not being the right thing for me because it was actually too small. I couldn't really see it, to be honest. The windows were covered, so I didn't know how big it was. But I called, and I just called the right person because my realtor was like, actually, I specialize in commercial real estate for fitness centers. So let me know what you're looking for. I'll keep you in mind. And it was like a few months later, she was like, Lara, I think I found the perfect spot for you. It's just like down the street from where you saw that one space. And then I think a lot of people, what they don't see on the behind the scenes is like lease negotiations, getting a lawyer to review your lease, paying a really large security deposit. There's like there's a lot of things that go on in the background. But once I did find the space, I think from the time that I found it to the time that I signed the lease, it did take a couple months. It takes longer than you think when you're going back and forth, like negotiating for a space and for the right price and that kind of thing, and the work that maybe the landlord can contribute and different things like that. So yeah, it did take a little bit for that to happen.
And do you feel like being a member in the AAPI community, let's say within yoga and stuff like that, do you feel there is actually quite a few of us up there, or you feel like you're actually one of the few that I guess represents us? And how do you feel about that?
Yeah, that's such a great question. I mean, I live in LA. I live in the South Bay, like near the beach cities, and I've gone to a lot of yoga studios and a lot of classes where I feel like I'm in a sea of white people. I may be the only person of color there, and I'm glad to offer a space that is diverse. And I think that spiritual practices and yoga and meditation are beyond the color of our skin. These are lessons and learnings that anyone and everyone can take something from. But and by take something from, I mean like they can learn something from. But yeah, I feel like there should be more, and there could be more, and I'm glad that I've heard people feel comfortable, even more comfortable, coming to my studio because they do see it as a diverse place, and they see it as a unique place because it is a little different. And just seeing, and also like particularly where my studio is located, I feel like we pull from like lots of different communities, and I think that helps to have a diverse community, and it makes people more comfortable to go there. So it is important, and I want there to be more.
Yeah. And also, can you explain, obviously there's, for those that are in LA, yes, Esther, our astrologer, yes, she lives in LA. I guess, yeah, we can,
Yes.
a good chunk of us do. So definitely would love to do meetup. And would you say that, yeah, so for people that are watching in, they're also on the East Coast and whatnot, do you offer virtual classes?
We do for now. Honestly, I will say that I think people are zoomed out, and like our virtual class attendance is like dwindling. But so I don't know how much longer we're going to do that. I'm planning to reopen indoors. We also do like outdoor classes, but we plan on opening indoors within the next month or so. For now we do. So those can all be found like on the website, and you can book them from anywhere. You'll also get a recording if you don't happen to attend it live. So yeah, that is an option.
And for the people that visit your studio, do they usually come from a place of like they want more of like fitness and wellness, or maybe sometimes they're like, again, maybe from trauma, or just like kind of like you, where you're like, oh, I'm looking for something new, and then this really just makes me connect more with my body?
Mm-hmm. I've really seen it all. People come to yoga for all types of reasons, and sometimes one thing leads to another. Like sometimes people will go there searching for like, oh, the best physical exercise, and then they're like, oh wow, this is affecting me on a subtle and spiritual level, and I'm going to keep coming back. Or they might come from a place of trauma and sadness, and they're like, oh, I think I need some yoga, and then they realize what a great physical workout it is too, and then they keep coming back. So I've really met people who've come to yoga and meditation for many different reasons, and whatever it is, I'm just always glad that they found us.
And also in the future, obviously you had to pivot a lot for
Mhm.
COVID because physical locations were shut down, so that probably hurt. But do you have any creative ideas or anything that you're hoping in the future to launch? Or is there anything you'd like to tell the audience?
Yeah, actually, one thing that I'm currently working on, which I'm excited about, and I'm working on it with my friend, and this did come about during the whole pandemic, and also it came as something from an intuitive reading that I got, was to create a product. So I'm working on a card deck, and it's going to be like a yoga inspired card deck with like different messages that are positive and uplifting, and they're also like based on yoga philosophy and that kind of thing. So that's in the works. And I'm hoping to have it out before the holidays. So that's something.
Yeah, that's exciting.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Awesome. And where can more people find about like what you offer and what you're working on, your website and social media?
Yeah. So for the yoga studio, it's called Yoga Bliss. Our website is yogabliss-studio.com. You can find our schedule on there and all that kind of stuff, different workshop offerings that we have. And the Instagram is Yoga Bliss LA. And you can find my personal Instagram as well, Lara_loves. And they kind of intertwine. We'll share yoga stuff on my personal page as well. So yeah, you can find me at any of those places. And thank you for having me.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
There. Okay. So our last guest speaker, she is a sound healer and owner and founder of the Woo Woo Company. Inclusivity and diversity are very important to her as there aren't many Asian Americans or Pacific Islander women in wellness, and I can attest to that, who are focusing on emotional, spiritual, and mental well-being. And wanting to bring a different perspective to this space based on her own experiences and cultural background, her intuition led her to start a company to encourage and inspire people to look within to find their truth. The Woo Woo Company has been featured in the Washingtonian, DC Freight, and has been chosen as the best of DC 2020 by Washington City Paper. I would like to welcome you all to Alice Who.
Hi, everyone. It is
Hello.
so nice to be able to connect with everyone this evening. So thank you for that introduction. Yeah, so I am the founder of Woo Woo Company. I'm a sound healer. I'm a corporate mindfulness consultant. I do a lot of different things, but I really like to describe my company and what I do is just as a guide to all things woo, spiritual, and holistic health. And everything that I share is really meant for you to discover your truth and your purpose. I came into this space because of my Saturn return, which happens in your late 20s or early 30s. It's just a big shakeup in your life in terms of like facing those existential questions and wondering like, what is my purpose? What am I meant to do? Is there something else out there? And that really got me into spirituality, into crystals, manifestation, law of attraction, astrology, and all of those things. And I was super skeptical before. And then I was like, wait, this stuff like actually works. And I was like, I have to tell more people about it because I'm like one of those people that if something like is great, I'm like, I got to share it with everyone because I'm like, it's just so wonderful. It can help you in this and that. And so it was just a very natural progression for me to start this community and this company in DC. I was just very curious to understand and know like other people who wanted these things that are predominantly on the West Coast or New York and like just not really focused on in DC. But what I discovered was like so many people were interested in the same things. So many people wanted the connection, wanted the community. And so that's kind of, like a bit of background and, how I started this company. It was something I fought for a long time. And once I kind of like surrendered to it, like a lot of things got put into the right place.
And I met Alice through Asian Hustle Network group, and also she was a guest speaker there. And I just want to let you guys know, she just came from another event, so she is working. Can you tell us about, obviously, your journey as getting into spiritual coaching, sound healing? to where it is today and building like the woo company, and any difficulties or any just like maybe moments of high where you're like, yay.
Yeah, so the business like has really changed since I started it a couple years ago, and obviously it changed even more during the pandemic. So I started this business very events focused and nothing about me. It was about bringing in other practitioners and experts and talking about these topics in new and exciting ways, like really bringing the mystical into the practical, right? And just kind of blending those things together so more people would know the magic of all the things that we're interested in, the modalities and the practices that we have. So it was very event heavy, and then it shifted more into kind of like, how can I be a healer? Intuitive readings, like sound healing, like helping wellness practitioners, entrepreneurs start their business. And so this last year, I've really seen it kind of progress even more in terms of offering more one-on-one spiritual mentorship, one-on-one consulting to help people build their businesses, figuring out like, what is my gift? How do I market it? How much do I charge? And, how, like kind of guiding them through that process. And so really primarily like those are things I concentrate on. And of course, like I'll do some like corporate activations and workshops to help people with like stress relief, and also help them to understand that mindfulness is so powerful, not only at the individual level, but for business as a whole. Because most people are working and they're stressed with like high output. So can you imagine if people were like in a good mood, what they would be able to do? A lot. And I still facilitate like sound baths because it's like one of the easiest ways for people to understand like, ooh, like this is what mindfulness and meditation can do for me. Like I feel so good. And like, people tell me that it's really helped with their manifestation process, like help them call in like dream jobs, homes, partners, like all of that. Some people listen to like the same sound bath that I have on Instagram or YouTube like every single day for like,
I was about to say, like, if you guys want to check out like sample of her work and her sound baths, and your sound baths are just beautiful. They're like clear, but they're also colorful. So check out her Instagram, which I'll include the link below, and also in the link below when this is posted on YouTube. But also, are you, when you were featured in all these publications, like Best of 2020 Washington City Paper, how does it feel given that you are of Asian descent being featured in it?
I mean, it's a really big deal. It's a big deal just because wellness is not one of those big industries in Washington, D.C., but then to be, an Asian woman, especially someone who's really new to this industry. And it's not like I had years of experience personally or professionally in wellness. I come from a consumer marketing background, digital marketing background. So for me to be received and seen in that way was very powerful in terms of understanding that this is the right path for me to be on. And I share things in a way that just allow people to be introduced to something unfamiliar, but in a familiar way. So it gave me a lot of forward momentum to continue the work that I'm doing and to give a voice to people that may not know that they need a voice. So many of these things that are popularized right now within wellness that come from Eastern culture, but very few people of Asian descent are teaching yoga, are practicing traditional Chinese medicine, are doing sound healing. How many Reiki practitioners do you know that are Japanese or even Asian? I mean, I'm Reiki 1-2 certified, but I don't really actively practice that type of energy healing, energy activation. But it's just Reiki. For those who don't know, it's a Japanese form of energy healing.
Yeah, even in when I was looking for feng shui, like it was so hard.
It's a white
for
girl
me.
thing.
It was so hard for me to find someone of AAPI descent, just doing feng shui. I thought it'd be easy because I was like, oh, it came from Asia, whatever. No, it was not. It was so hard. I couldn't. I found like one or two, but they weren't able to make it. So, but yeah. Totally agree with you.
I believe that there's so few of us just because there's a lot of like ancestral lineage trauma. Of like, this was not cool, this was deemed like very savage or backwards, maybe a couple decades or a generation ago, and now all of a sudden it's popular. But it was kind of like witchy and kind of weird, before, but now like, oh, it's so cool. But for survival and to kind of blend in, and also to make more money. Like people did other things, they pursued other paths. And I think right now is such a special time for reclaiming our culture, our heritage, and like so much of me starting this business is a healing journey. The more I heal myself, the more I'm able to help others. And a lot of that is like just decolonizing and understanding, what is in mine, and what about my culture and about Asian culture in general do I need to embrace, and do I need to be like a beacon and a voice for, so that others are inspired to take the leap of like starting their business and doing something scary, because there's a lot of scarcity mindset in our community to be an entrepreneur, to dive into wellness, not even wellness in the physical sense of fitness, nutrition, but in the liminal space of like, the esoteric of like psychics and intuitives and like herbal, like those things are so fringe. They've been so much so part of our culture and our DNA in ways that we just don't like recognize. It's like part of our everyday life.
Yeah, definitely. We were talking earlier about how like even with our parents, their generation, again, scarcity mindset, and so they want us to be stable. And so we've been pushed to do office jobs. I see a lot of Asians in finance.
And doctors.
Yes, exactly.
Consultants, engineers. But we're so much more. And I think people are starting to like really embrace that and understand like, wait, I can be a multifaceted human being, and I don't need to kind of be put in a box. And I love seeing AAPI entrepreneurs, not just within wellness, but like beyond, because it's such a powerful statement in terms of believing in yourself, wealth creation, diversity, inclusivity. It's a ripple effect that will benefit not only our community, but other communities as well.
And for your spiritual coaching and any services that you offer, just to let everyone out there, or can they be done virtually?
Yes, everything's like virtual now. I mean, I launched these services virtually even well before the pandemic. I was doing the business consulting, and that was always virtual. But yeah, I mean, it's like people have just had such great results from the program. And so I'm just so happy to be able to do this work like online and to help people through the process of like spiritual awakening or just like more clarity. It's honestly anybody who kind of feels like stuck in between on autopilot, maybe going through their Saturn return, maybe thinking about doing something scary. And they're like, I don't know if I could do this on my own. Should I do this? Kind of like that vacillation, like back and forth of like different decisions, right? And this program creates like a strong foundation of knowledge and a strong support system that people have like been able to call in like their dream homes, dream jobs, promotions, starting businesses, like, and overall just like feeling better about themselves and having like it's like a sparkle to them. Like when they enter the program, they're kind of like a little stressed, a little down, like their energy is a little heavy, and now they're like when they finish, it's like lighter and brighter. And people ask them like, what are you doing, what are you taking, what do you want? Like you seem different, but in a good way. And I'm just really able to help facilitate that. Sorry, that's my dog.
He's welcome to join. And for your program, or is it like a spiritual coaching cohort program? And is there open enrollment, or is there a certain launch in the future that you're going to be doing?
So the one-on-ones, that's like open enrollment, and I do have a spiritual group program starting at the beginning of June. So if anyone's interested, like please reach out. I'm happy to speak one-on-one with you, answer any questions, and see if it's like a good fit.
Great. And if people want to connect with you, where can they find you?
Yeah, so they can connect with me. Like I have a phone number, which is really handy, 202-918-3414. But that my dog's kind of barking really badly, so here. There we go. But yes, and then you have all the links.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for joining us, and also for your dog joining us in the end too. Perfect. All right. Thank you, everyone, for joining us tonight. I'd like to thank all of our wonderful guest speakers, Esther, Kim, Ananda, Fiona, Lara, and Alice, for joining us and for being so generous to take time out of their busy schedule to share their stories that need to be heard, and their journey of having their own business, and also some of them being moms too, and their gifts and talents with us today. So please give them a like and follow. This will be on YouTube. Hopefully my assistant can get like either end of this week or next week, and please support them and their businesses, because it really helps a lot. And again, if you'd like to tune in and attend future events like this or learn how to start your own spiritual wellness business, you can visit us at thehappyhealingshop.com. And I just wanted to see if anyone else has, I'm just gonna check Facebook Live, anyone has questions they want to ask before signing off. Could read some comments here. Maria writes, so inspired by all the badass women who presented here today. Dee Dee writes, thank you all for the information. Tia writes, thanks ladies, so refreshing, be safe and best luck of all. And Erin, what a great group of women. Thanks so much for this. I really enjoyed it. We also have an event next week with a few more members of the AAPI community, such as Chinese space reading. We have a psychic on there as well. So again, visit thehappyhealingshop.com for more events. And thank you again, everyone, for joining. Have a good night. Bye.